Hi everyone, this is Adrien, the exercise specialist at the Leduc Beaumont Devon Primary Care Network. Hope you all are doing well today. For a quick education video today, I actually wanted to explain to you guys a little concept involving your core. So what it pretty much boils down to is your core stabilization, some breathing techniques, and some bracing techniques for your core. So I'm personally under the opinion that the primary kind of one or two main things that your core tend to be used for is for stabilization and for actually force transfer through stabilization. So what I mean by that is when you apply force, so for example, if you jump or push off the ground, the force goes through your legs, up through your core, through your upper body, as well as the opposite direction as well. Anytime you are throwing a ball or throwing a punch, it starts in your hips and the force gets transferred through your core out your arms. So your core really needs to be able to help stabilize things properly to allow force to be optimally transferred. Force itself does not curve. Force goes in straight lines in different angles depending on how you apply the force, but it always goes in straight lines. And how we lose force is by having a weak link in the chain of the actual kind of tissue that the force is being applied through. And that's where a lot of injuries occur, or that's where pain and where aggravation also occurs, is kind of when this force is dispersed through a weak link in the chain. And that's where your core really comes into effect, and you need to have a strong core. There's a significant percentage of people that develop low back injuries simply due to doing activities that actually required force transfer through your core, but they did not brace properly. So the force, so some of the force went out the weak link, which could be in the low back, or even sometimes a hernia, things like that. That's a little bit more complex, but it usually works out in that kind of a way when a lot of individuals, if they just brace their core properly, they wouldn't have such a negative effect, and force be transferred properly, and they're strong and they're secure. And I'm going to show a really cool example of kind of how this applies in a second here. Core bracing and stabilization also can help people that are already dealing with a low back injury or a general core injury. Low back tends to be the most common, of course, but yeah, it can help people stay out of pain or be in less pain and remain more functional, even if you are dealing with something. Now, I'm not saying if you are dealing with a bad low back injury to just brace your core properly and you're going to be fine and you can go do anything. That's not what I'm saying, but certain things, if you have certain low back injuries, even things like getting up out of a chair, twisting, having to transfer something if you have to, learning to brace your core properly is incredibly beneficial. Core bracing itself is an incredibly kind of popular and a hot topic in the world of powerlifting and weightlifting, where the goal is to lift the heaviest weight possible for a single repetition. So you are usually pushing force either through the floor and up through your arms, or the opposite direction. And bracing your whole core is a very important aspect for that, because once again, if you have a strong braced core, then no force is able to escape, and you're able to actually produce the most force possible through the safest way possible. Core bracing doesn't cure everything, but it can make you far more functional. And with a lot of my patients, if they do live kind of somewhat active lifestyles, and they're dealing with some low back injuries and things like that, sometimes I'll teach them core bracing just to kind of help them be able to do certain things in less pain, or less likely to re-injure themselves, or even people that don't have any kind of injuries. If you're doing anything that involves kind of rolling forward and bending over, kind of in like a deadlift, where your mechanics might get a little iffy, or let's say you're picking up a grandchild off of the ground, so on and so forth. Learning to brace your core properly can make these movements far more efficient and far safer overall. So quickly, how do we actually brace our core? So bracing our core kind of happens in a couple different steps. A lot of people kind of describe it in multiple different ways. I have a couple simple, easy ways that I generally try and teach it to people. So the first step is if you ever can think of the feeling like if someone's going to punch you in the stomach. That's the first part. So it's like right. So if you get that feeling that someone is going to punch you in the stomach, naturally we flex our core muscles and we can breathe out a bit, right? Right, so that is the first step, and that actually helps to brace the actual front of the core. We also got to realize our core is the front, sides and the back, right? So all of our 3 levels of our abdominal muscles, all of our oblique and interstitial or intercostal muscles, and the low back muscles, all of the spinal erectors, multifidus, so on and so forth. The lat muscles also, QLs, whole bunch of muscles in your back there. But and it's learning to brace kind of all 3 sides of that. So how the easiest way to do it is obviously you kind of flex the front, and then you can start to feel on the sides if things feel kind of loose and things. That's all you want to do is you want to flex, and you actually want to try and breathe into your stomach a little bit more, and that extra intra-abdominal pressure, which is what that is called, because you're increasing the actual pressure in your abdomen, helps to brace the side and the back, so all 3 sides become really secure. So it's right. So I'm flexing the front, and then I breathe into my stomach a little bit. So I breathe down, and I flex the sides, and then the back, and then you're a strong, sturdy, stabilized structure. Now this takes practice over time. People that really aren't good at this, I often recommend people actually doing this exercise alone for sets of 10 to 20, right? So you'd be sitting, or sometimes I get people to do it laying. I get them to do it laying down, actually. Sometimes with their feet elevated on a chair or something like that. Even it's the front and then the side and then back, all right? And then you're a good solid core. And sometimes you can just tap on your core, see if things feel tight. And even if you're carrying a little bit, extra body fat around the area, you can still feel things tighten up and get tense on each side. It's a simple, kind of easy way to really kind of work on bracing that core. So after a while, you can get it to where it becomes kind of one motion where it's just, all right, and then all 3 sides are nice and tense. Sometimes if you feel like one side isn't quite as tense, what I do is always actually tap on the muscle a bit to kind of wake it up a little bit, so you can kind of feel that muscle. You can work on flexing out a bit, so on and so forth. And once you get used to this, doing it quickly before you're going to do something, heavy, like I said, picking something up off the ground, picking up a grandkid, or if you have difficulties getting up out of chairs or off the toilet, so on and so forth, little things like that, just racing first before you do it actually helps to make the movement far more efficient and force be produced far more easily, and you're able to do these things a lot easier overall because you are optimally utilizing force. So that is the easiest way to do it. Now, for a little example of how this kind of works, I have a can here. I guess I wrote core on it. As you can see, core is backwards, but there's a smiley face. I blocked off the actual label on this can because they aren't paying me. If any company does want to pay me to advertise their cans while I do these I do these videos, let me know. That is a joke, obviously, but a really simple example of how kind of the core stabilization and pressure analogy work can be done with any can, and anyone can try this with a can. So we have a can here, right? So right now this can, it's an empty can, so you can tell it's empty. You can see it's empty, right? I'm trying really my best not to show the label here, but if we take the actual can here, right? So there's no dents in the side, right? Even though it is empty, and this would work even better if it was full, because then that's like a full can is like a fully pressurized abdomen, right? You've braced, you're full of air, so on and so forth. And so you are fully stable, so on and so forth. A full can full of whatever liquid is in is very difficult to actually push down, right, and actually crush this way, right? But even with the empty can, it works just as well, right? Like this can may be empty, but there are no actual dents. So if I push down really hard, I can't actually crush the can at all, right? It maintains its shape, it maintains everything, right? So this is a properly braced core. It's the same principle. I'm applying force down, and the force is optimally going all the way through, because there's nowhere the force is able to go out each side because it's properly braced. But if we simply, squish the can on each side, and we put a dent in the can. So as you can see, there are some dents in the can now, right, on each side. If we push down now, right, the can crumples, right? It's the exact same principle, and it crumples easily. It's the exact same principle as your core. When your core is braced properly, just like the can, force will go straight through and out the bottom, and all the force will be transferred through. There'll be no leaks out the side. It'll go in a straight line through, and it'll work properly. When there's a dent in the can, just like there is a weak part in your core, from not bracing properly, force can go out that area, and it can actually, damage the actual core or your low back, for example, similar to the can. So I found that to be a really cool example. You can do that yourself with any can. It's not a difficult test. You take the full can or the empty can with any dents, try and squish it down. It's not impossible, but it's incredibly hard. You empty out the can and you put some dents in the side, and then you squish it. It's super easy. It's the exact same principle, right? When there is a dent, force does not go 100% in the straight line. There is a weakness in the core, and some of the force dissipates out the side, and the can crushes because it is not secure and stable. So in conclusion, working on these kind of techniques can be very helpful to keep your core strong and stable. When you do this as an actual exercise itself, or sets up 10 to 20, you can actually get a great full core workout where you can be feeling it in your ab muscles and all of your intercostal muscles and oblique muscles, just from actually working on this movement. And then after a while, it becomes easy, it becomes second nature, and you start to do these things without even really thinking about it. And that's where we want to be for kind of optimal safety for core health and low back health, and optimal movement overall. So I hope you guys found that helpful. I think it's an incredibly beneficial thing for people to work on. If you have any questions, feel free to post them down below. Please subscribe to the clinic's YouTube channel and like the video. My name is Adrien. I'm the exercise specialist at the Leduc, Beaumont, Devon Primary Care Network. Thank you so much, and have a great day.